Can you feel the sunlight of a brand new day? Our hands held tight together, chase the gray skies away. Can you hear the music of our lullaby? The bloodshed and the tears have passed into the night.
Hello everybody, this is Snarist, and welcome back to my Eternights Expert Mode walkthrough. This is part 8, The Days of Act 3, and this is going to be where we start getting closer to Yuna even more, a little bit of time with Chani, get closer to Min and Sia. And I'm going to use this chance to talk a bit more about their combat uses, as I'm occasionally stopping to, talk about the story and everything here. But what we just bought there in the sword skills is Blast. And what Blast entails is it's like a horizontal arc. If you've been watching my Ruby Grim Eclipse series and you saw me use Blake, well then it's kind of the same thing. Well, it doesn't stun the enemies. What it does do is it sends out a wave that travels horizontally across infinite space. So as long as it doesn't hit a building or some other obstacle, you can have it shoot off all the way across the other side of the arena. It's really, really effective, not only because it does a little bit more damage than the Stinger, but it can also hit multiple enemies as well and knock them down. The Stinger can do something similar, but it only targets one enemy, maybe two if they're really, really bunched up closer together. But while the Stinger is good for getting you closer to an enemy if you want to do your own combo against them, but in most cases, yes, just using Blast is the best thing to do. And if you hit multiple enemies, it builds up your death blow super fast. So yeah, Blast is amazing, and that's the only sword skill I'm going to be using from now on. Occasionally I might use Stinger here and there to get closer to my enemies, or just to sort of get closer so I can do my own combo now that I've seen a chance or a gap in one of the bosses or the enemy's patterns. But for the most part, it's really all it is. Now let's talk about Min and Sia. Now, Min's core ability is that she can create shields, and when you upgrade her enough, she unlocks something called Stun Wave. By the way, this section here introduces you to a new concept. You've got to find Yunji, and Yunji is the little girl that was half turned into a monster, but you interrupted the process when you killed the infected hacker boss. She's all the way at the back of the train. This seems to be random. I haven't found a pattern where this works, but every once in a while, if you want, explore the train during the day or at night, and if you can find her and talk to her, she'll randomly boost one of your stats, and it'll go up by like 8 points. It's really, really good. Now this here is what I was talking about before in a previous part, where if you don't have enough heart banners with a character, you can compensate for all of that by spending a day hanging out with them, but this was a mistake. I should have waited till nightfall and then trained with Yuna to do. And training for any of the characters is like a mini game, and with these mini games, if you do well in them, then it can build up your heart barrier. Now, Min's got two different abilities, as I said before. Her first one is that she can conjure a shield that allows you to take one hit from anything. Now, considering that a lot of the enemies have multiple attacks, it's not really all that useful. So against the bosses, it is kind of a useful move if you're good at dodging them and protecting you for a very short time. Like if a boss has that one attack, just one attack that you have a hard time dodging that always seems to hit you, just put that on and you'll be all good. And it doesn't cost all that much either, so it's definitely helpful. But when you get Min to a high enough rank, by far her most useful upgrade, and in my opinion one of the most broken abilities in the game, is called Stun Wave. Now this doesn't work if the boss has a barrier on them, but for every other enemy it does work. Or when you break the barrier on the boss, it does work. And what happens is for about 5 seconds the enemy is stunned, and so you can go ahead and you can build up your combo and just whack away at them as if they were in perfect dodge in the slowed time, where you can just wail on them for free. And with quite a wide radius, all the enemies around them get stunned as well, so you can almost line them up and use like a wave blast on them, and you can just take them all out. But when you get the stun wave high enough after you rank Min up, her stun wave can stun up to like 11 seconds, and that's just busted as fuck. I've noticed that for some bosses they break out of it way sooner, and I don't know why this is. But regardless, you can still do a ton of damage to bosses and to enemies when you use the stun wave. It's really, really good. And when it comes to Sia in particular, I used to sleep a lot on her abilities because I didn't find them to be all that useful, but they actually really are. So the first thing that she can do is, I believe it's called Ice Rain, where she can bring down a hail of arrows made out of ice, and it's got pretty good range on it in terms of the radius, and it does a decent amount of damage, but it's more so for dealing with a crowd of enemies that maybe you find difficulty dealing with if you're low on your ability to use sword skills, so you can't use blast, which is about the only thing you should be using, because then you can build up your own death blow gauge. You would only want to use that ability if you're desperate, but otherwise it's not really all that good. Or if you're facing multiple opponents, like this one fight near the very, very end of the game, right before the Umbra boss fight, where that Ice Rain is really useful. But her second ability is something I've forgotten the name of, but it's sort of similar to Min's ability, where she creates a radius of frost. It doesn't freeze the enemies, but it slows them down, meaning that their attacks are way slower. So you can quite easily get the perfect dodge on them. So it makes them way easier to dodge, and it makes their attacks easier to avoid, and it gives you a chance to reposition yourself. And when it's upgraded more, when her rank goes higher, it can not only freeze them for about as long as Min's stun wave goes on for, but what makes this almost better than Min's stun wave, is the fact that the frost can affect bosses even when they have their barriers on. So even if a boss has the different barrier fragments where you can't properly hurt it until you wear it down, you can use Sia's ability to freeze the arena around the boss, and you can slow it down for a little bit, giving you more time to perfect dodge, or to get off a combo even if you're not in perfect dodge, because the boss is moving that slow that you can get 1 or 2 combos off. And it's really, really useful to build up your elemental gauge at that point. And the fact that it can still have a barrier on and you can freeze them means that you can, with Sia and Min together at your side for the story missions, or even for the final boss, you could just as easily take Umbra or even Delia, and you could freeze her and slow her down, build up your elemental gauge, wear her down, get rid of her barrier, and then you use Min's stun wave, and then you can just keep her perpetually locked away. And then as soon as Sia's, Frost Circle is ready again, just use it and keep it going and keep the cycle going. Now, of course, these abilities are all on a cooldown, and some of them have quite a long cooldown. For the most part, it's pretty much a perfect combo just to wear down bosses. So that's why simultaneously things are harder right now, but they're also way easier. Because as long as you know how to use your abilities in tandem with another, then you don't really need to worry about how difficult things get on expert mode, because it's really not that bad. Because I'm so used to playing on expert, I've completely forgotten what easy and normal are like, so I have no idea if the aggression changes. I'm pretty sure the enemies are still as aggressive as ever. The only difference is that they do more damage. So even when you have a lot of health, there are some bosses out there that can kill you in about 3 to 4 hits, whereas on normal, they've got the same moves, same aggression, but they'll probably kill you in about like 8 or 9 hits, something like that. So we're just hanging out with Chani a lot more, and yeah, I'm kind of baffled because we're only about 10 minutes into this, and I've already more or less discussed the benefits of Sia and Min with their abilities. And I suppose I'll just go ahead and talk about the sword skill that's affiliated with Sia joining our group. And I forgot what the name is exactly, but you basically conjure the summoned swords that fly around Virgil from Devil May Cry. And why I don't like it and why I think it's the worst ability is because when you're doing the charge up animation for a couple of seconds before the sword starts spinning around you, that's not an invincibility frame. You are vulnerable and you can be hit and killed during that. And even when you have the sword spin around you, it doesn't protect you and it doesn't do all that much damage, and the swords have barely any range, so it's kind of a waste. But for the most part, what I'm doing here is I'm more or less just building out more white essence so I can get a lot more upgrades for the characters to build their abilities and to buy them out. And looking back on this, it would kind of ruin the flow of it all. Maybe I'll do it for the future videos here, but in particular with this, when it comes to the days of Act 3 and even come out with the days of Act 4, which I could very well still do, I didn't want to speed anything up just in case there was something that everyone might have missed. But there really isn't anything to miss, is there? Because we've got another 20 minutes to go of just messing around with the characters, building up their relationships and getting everything sorted. But now there's just really nothing all that much to discuss. So I suppose I'll talk a little bit more about what we're dealing with in terms of the story mission coming up. We're going to be going back to the same location where we fought the puppet master boss with Min at. And what's going to happen there is there's going to be a black essence crystal that's hidden around the parking lot area in that starting section. So we'll grab that, I'm pretty sure. And then we'll move on through. And there's a facility just outside of the hospital, which I can only imagine is some form of quarantine around the hospital, you know, in the event of this apocalypse and outbreak, and inevitably fell. I suppose I should point out, if you're wondering why it's confusing, about how the entire city seems abandoned and there's only monsters and there's no living people around except for us, the main characters. And that's because, as Lux's champions, we're imbued with some sort of natural resistance. So we can't ever be infected, we can't ever be turned, we can be corrupted, but we can't be turned. And so because of that, we have a resistance to that kind of aura of evil in a way that's infecting the entire city. So anything within the walls, there's not going to be any people near them, there's not going to be any people within them, because they all got turned, because they're not special like we are. So in any case, the hospital section that's going to be part of the main story mission, it's probably the shortest mission out of all the main story missions. It doesn't take that long to go through it all. And the final boss at the end, I originally wanted to call him the Infected Guardian because he's technically protecting the wall, but he's also more of a duelist just because of the way he fights and how he uses his sword. It's actually going to be kind of interesting because even though we can beat him, we don't kill him, and it's because Min hesitates. And when she hesitates, he morphs back into the wall and strengthens it. And that's part of the reason why we're in a hurry to try and take him down, to try and find the source of these pillars, because if we take too long, the wall will become so impenetrable that we can't break through it. But it isn't until we go and fight that boss and he merges into the wall as a last measure and we realize we can't break through and we can't fight him anymore because he's in the wall. Well, what ends up happening is Sia gets the idea to strap Min to the front of the train, conjure up a shield to protect it, and then we just go full speed ahead and ram right through the wall. And I skipped that cutscene out in a couple of parts when it comes up, but yeah, it's a really great moment, and it further solidifies why Min's one of my favourite characters in this whole game. There's just something so endearing about her carrying on the spirit of her team. But more to discuss when we get to that moment. I suppose I'll go more in about what can I talk about? I'm kind of just making this up as I go along, just to be fair. I suppose I'll talk about some of the other series I got going on right now. Because it is right now, I'm living in Australia, and so today, right now, as I'm recording this, is Australia Day, so we've had a long weekend, and I've had a lot of long hours, day in and day out, for the last few days or so, of me just recording gameplay and doing commentary. And I've run into a few problems. I mentioned this before in a video that's going to come out eventually. It'll be before this one. And I was doing my series for Ruby Grim Eclipse, and I had the footage all ready to go for a long time, just shortly after my Ninja Gaiden 4 series. But as I got the commentary done for it, it wasn't until I started uploading a whole lot of it to YouTube that I saw that the music was copyrighted because I had an intro from the Ruby Red trailer where she's fighting the Grim, and I sped up the footage, but I also had playing over the background 15 seconds out of the song by Jeff Williams, This Will Be the Day, which is an official song as part of Ruby soundtrack and probably the most recognizable one there is. So that was a big no-no, and so it got a copyright flag. And so before I published it, just to be safe, I decided to change it up. I had to remove it, take it down, and then I had to quickly go ahead and remove the intro from all of those videos and re-export them and create new versions of them. And the first part took a long time to upload, and because of that, I think by the time this commentary comes out for Eternights, that series will be out long before then. But ultimately, I did have a good time making that series, and I didn't intend on doing an Eclipse walkthrough, but by accident I managed to beat that first mission on Eclipse difficulty solo, and because it was so unexpected, and you'll find out more if you see it, I wanted to get the series up, I wanted to get it finished, and I wanted to make sure that it was all ready to go. But it's taking forever to upload to YouTube because I wanted to make sure that it's in high quality, that it's smooth, and to give people the option to watch it in a very high quality and with smooth frame rates and everything. And while the first part is already out by the time I'm doing this commentary and the others aren't quite uploaded just now, the new versions, I thought before then I would take a meme game from last year called Yasuke Simulator, which is supposed to be a parody of Assassin's Creed Shadows, and making fun of all the insensitive, historically not very accurate things it tried to portray in that game, and rightfully so. And it honestly, as it stands on its own, is a really good game. Most of those videos only go for about 3 or 4 minutes long, and there's only 9 chapters, so there's hardly anything to it. And yet, even as I'm recording right now and I go back and check it every once in a while, those videos are taking nearly 2 hours to upload every single one, and it's absolutely ridiculous. So I don't know if I'll be able to finish it all tonight or if something will change and maybe the speed will go up, but yeah, I want to try and finish both those series and get them over and done with. But God of War 3 has already been recorded, edited, commentated, and it's all ready to go after all that. But I'm also going to be very busy playing Code Vein 2 and My Hero All's Justice, so hopefully those games are going to be great, because I could see me doing a walkthrough for both those games, with Code Vein 2 maybe doing how to get the true ending if there's multiple endings, and, well, because it's a Souls-like and an open world, it's basically taking the Elden Ring approach to things, and not only do I not really like a lot of Souls-likes, and Code Vein was probably my favourite out of that genre, a lot of the reasons why I like that game is not there in the sequel, but I'm still invested enough to at least try the sequel to see how it is. Code Violet was already a big disappointment for the beginning of the year because I had high hopes for it, but hopefully this doesn't let me down. But I think My Hero All's Justice will be pretty great. There's always the arcade mode, there's always some sort of mission mode if it has that. I know it's already showed off what the different modes the game has are, but I've largely forgotten them. I've just got to wait till the game comes out. I'm going to play the shit out of it, and I'm just going to see if there's anything I can do. I think at the very least, it'll have a story mode, and it'll have a ranking system, trying to get the S ranks. Usually it's just beating the mission, and then it's completing a few arbitrary objectives, like beating it faster or keeping your health above a certain percentage. I know that historically a lot of those are really easy to get S ranks on, but there'll always be a few that are problematic. But still, it'd be a good chance for me to talk more about the game outside of a review. Because Code Violet was supposed to be my first proper review on the channel for a new game, but, not only could I not finish that game because it was so insufferable, but even on hard difficulty, it was so damn difficult and so damn broken that it almost wasn't worth discussing. I gave up on it pretty early, and that's what'll happen. I value my time more than my money, to be fair. Both are important, but still. And then after that's all over, I'll be uploading God of War 3 videos, or at least during the process of playing Code Vein 2 and all that. And Yasuke Simulator will probably be up before then, or maybe it'll be up after that. And depending on the day and what sort of problems the internet might have, or how slow it is, Eternights might be a while, it might not take much time at all. But I want to breeze through it as much as I can and catch up. I know that might mean there'll be days where I don't upload anything, but I think it's probably for the best, because I don't like the idea anymore of playing a series, finishing the game, having it edited, having commentary done for it, but it doesn't come out for like 3 weeks. That confuses a lot of the timeline for people. Although I do think it's hilarious that even though I uploaded all chapters of Ninja Gaiden 4 on Master Ninja difficulty, providing a relative amount of comfort for people that are perhaps a little bit scared of playing on Master Ninja, even though it's the easiest Ninja Gaiden game that's ever been. Along with the combat trials, in my opinion, the hardest part of the game. I find it funny that out of all those videos, I only upload one video for Grim Eclipse of Ruby, and just out of nowhere, it automatically does better than all the other videos. It might only be 10 views or 11 views, but at the time of this recording, but, you know, still quite funny. I made it clear as well in the walkthrough that, you know, if anyone was curious about seeing a no upgrade run through Ruby Arafel, I do think that Arafel is the better game, but I personally prefer Grim Eclipse because it's more my kind of game. I'm not big into Metroidvanias. But be that as it may, a big part of why I want to get through all this stuff as well, even with Code Vein 2 and My Hero All's Justice on the Rise, and these other series I've still got commentary for and still got to release, and still a buttload of games I want to go back and play, especially on an emulator from the PS2 era. One game that I just finished up the other day, over this Australia Day weekend, was Dead Space 2. I came back to it and I had a lot of fun troubles with it. And I've got a Zealot difficulty walkthrough that's all lined up, ready to commentate. And I'm not super proud of it, because there is quite a few mistakes I make and I have cut out all the times where I died. But despite making all the mistakes that I did, it didn't take me very long to beat the game. And it just goes to show that as long as you know what you're doing and you're mostly aware of the different encounters that are going to come up and ways that you can conquer it, it's actually pretty simple. Whereas, in contrast to that, after I got that experience, I went and played on hardcore difficulty, and even though I made a few mistakes and had a few deaths, a couple of which were absolute bullshit and not my fault, the other day I actually did manage to go through hardcore difficulty and I beat it. And I really like Dead Space 2's hardcore difficulty because of how it makes you feel. I don't appreciate the long runbacks, but I always encourage people to give Dead Space 2 a shot, and when they do, at least attempt hardcore once or twice. Just give it a shot, see how far you can go, even if the goal isn't to finish it. I don't know if this is normal or what's gone wrong, but on Steam there doesn't seem to be any achievements for it, or at least not anymore. I don't know if that's tied to EA servers being shut down and that's why I can't find the Severed DLC anymore, because I've never actually played the Severed DLC before and I would love to give that a shot. But I guess it won't happen for me anymore. I'm sure I can do it somewhere, but I can't be bothered to learn where or how. But ultimately hardcore was definitely a real struggle, a real challenge. But I managed to do it, and it's all recorded, it's all lined up and ready to go. It pretty much has no editing done to it and no intro, apart from transitions in and out of when I made different saves and here and there. I kept in all the cutscenes, I kept in all the fluff and all the walking around and all the different moments, and I ended up finishing the game at about 5 hours and 41 minutes altogether, which is a pretty good time, I'd say. So that's going to be really exciting because I've spaced the 3 saves that you get in the entire game when you play on hardcore out, and it's such an odd length because the first part is going to be the longest, and it's 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours of commentary is going to be torture for my throat, man. I'm going to have a hard enough time doing a 1 hour commentary for the video coming up in this series with Days of Act 4, but, you know, at least I'll know that I'll deal with this before then. And when it comes to that, the video after that will only be about 40 minutes long, the next one will be an hour long, and the one after that will be 20 fucking minutes. If not for that stupid needle eye surgery section, it always makes me nervous. I'd be more tempted just to save a little bit earlier in all the parts I did. It would have saved me a lot of trouble, but I just can't trust myself not to fuck up the eye surgery part. For the most part, I never do, but it's always nerve-wracking, and it's always that one time. That one time where I don't think I'm going to fail, and then I fail, and then it completely undoes everything, and I just feel like shit. Like, it's a great game, so I don't mind the run back and everything, but the fact that it does still happen is just, there's nothing quite like the feeling of knowing that your death can cost you hours of wasted time in your life. But when the game is short enough and the game plays really well, and I'm confident in my own abilities to survive, then I know that I can do it. You know, I once considered doing a no damage run of this game, and in future I could possibly do that. But then again, I'd want to spend more time with the characters and go out and do their missions, and try to get their abilities up just so it makes the main story a lot easier. I think with enough time and patience I could do a no damage run, but at the same time, do I really want to suffer through that? Probably not. But see, this game was made by a single a single man, and then eventually Studio Psy picked it up, or at least it was formed, and it got a much bigger budget. And I think I remember seeing only a couple of weeks ago for the new year that Eternights, as part of an Epic Store sale or something, ended up surpassing 9 million downloads since its release up until now. I don't know if that's true. That seems way too big for what it is. But if that is true, and this game is secretly more popular but no one really talks about it than I thought it was, then honestly I don't know why more videos aren't made like this. Because I once considered doing my first essay video and it would be on this game, because I find a lot fascinating about it. I know my thoughts don't seem very coherent for an essay video, but when I write them down and I follow a script and I do some manipulation with the editing, I can do it just fine. So you see here that I've upgraded all of my blast, just because it's really damn good, and I'm getting everyone up as high as I can go for now. And pretty soon I'm going to be moving on to doing the main story mission, which thankfully is going to be a lot shorter so I can give my throat a bit of a rest. But yeah, if that is true, then congratulations to the developer and to the team that made Eternights. Because it has been hinted at that he's working on production for another game. I don't know if it'll be a sequel to Eternights, but I don't know if it'll be a new game entirely that works similar. But if it is going to be a sequel to Eternights, I kind of want something similar on the scale of there's an apocalypse about to break out, or an apocalypse has broken out, only this time you're following different champions of Lux. Maybe your main character can make a bit of a cameo, or maybe the other characters can make a cameo, but that would imply that the canon is all messed up and there's no real right answer, unless the game tells you, like, hey, if you've played Eternights 1, what character did you pick as your romance and what character did taken away? Or does it finally confirm that the character who does get lost at the end of the game come back and everything's alright again? You know, is it all true? I'd like it a lot if it followed the same characters and then added a couple of new ones and gave us some more romance options, and was able to increase the dynamic, like if you romance someone in the first game and you carry on that romance to the second one, just like in like Mass Effect or something, and you know, the relationship can be a lot more dynamic, it can change. I'd love that a lot, but I'd want them to keep the game at a limited length, because I think the pacing in this game for the most part is spectacular. So I don't want anything crazy blowing out of control, but I do want more. And I want another Eternights. Like, if you take what's already here and build on the foundations and improve it and make it more responsive, maybe a little more difficult here and there, I'd play it just as much as this one, maybe even more so. But this game will still hold a special place in my heart, and I'll always love it, even if the next one that comes along, or if it's something different from Eternights, comes and surpasses it. You know, you can only go up from here. But ultimately, would I do a no damage run? Well, it depends on how far the next game from Studio Psy is away, if it's another Eternights or not. But if there's ever an announcement or some sort of tease, just to get prepared for it, I might start playing Eternights again and working on a no damage run. But of course I'd need to get upgrades and stuff, because there's just no way that you can beat it with no upgrades and no damage. It is possible, but you'd have to be an absolute god tier wizard, and I am not that, despite knowing this game very, very well and probably playing it more than just about anybody else on this planet. There is no way that I could do that. I don't have the patience nor the fortitude to carry on with that. So that's the end of the days of Act 3. I've gone about as far as I can. I've gotten Min's upgrade for the stun wave, and that's going to come in very, very handy. I've gotten some upgrades for Yuna and for Min and for Sia. I've got my upgrades all sorted, and that's the end of this part, and I'll see you in the next one.